My name is Noah Whitman, and my research project for this semester concerns the relationship between ecofeminism and the mainstream feminist movement. Before we move forward, it's important to define what we're talking about. Ecofeminism first emerged as a political force in the late 1970s. It has been described as less of a coherent ideology and more of a set of guiding principles. Fundamentally, ecofeminists recognize a structural interconnection between the domination of natural systems and the oppression of human others, specifically women and people of color. Ecofeminists argue that both the oppression of women and the oppression of nature must be recognized in order to fully understand either one. Ecofeminism is based upon four fundamental ideas. First, justice for women and the survival of the ecosystem depend upon social transformation. Second, this transformation must come with the dissolution of dichotomous thinking. Third, humans must change their relationship with nature to recognize the intrinsic value of biodiversity. And finally, the same inherent value must be applied to human diversity. For a variety of reasons, ecofeminism was rejected and sidelined through the 80s and 90s. At the turn of the century, however, scholars began to reintroduce ecofeminism to the discourse. The climate crisis brought relevancy to ecological issues, and other ecofeminist ideas, like structural social transformation and interconnectedness between groups, began to appear more frequently in feminist discussions. The feminist movement has morphed and changed over the decades to adapt with society, and it has prioritized different issues over time. This paper seeks to answer the question, to what extent has ecofeminism influenced the priorities of the feminist movement? To answer this question, I examined a prominent feminist document from before ecofeminism emerged and a prominent contemporary feminist document. This paper focuses on the 1966 National Organization of Women's Statement of Purpose and the 2019 Women's March Unity Principles. I chose these organizations because they're representative of mainstream feminism, having both played crucial roles in organizing the largest feminist mass mobilizations of their times. Both documents are formatted as lists, which lay out the principles and values of each organization. By contrasting the issues prioritized by the National Organization of Women in 1996 with the Women's March in 2019, this paper seeks to identify the influences of ecofeminist thought. In order to do so, this project examines the occurrence of ecofeminist ideas in the National Organization of Women's Statement of Purpose and the Women's March Unity Principles. Some examples of ecofeminist concepts under consideration in the analysis include calls for the transformation of social structures, acknowledgement of interconnected oppressions between marginalized groups, recognition of intrinsic value of both human and non human actors, and appreciation of both biodiversity and human diversity, as well as more explicitly ecological themes. Based on my content analysis, I argue that ecofeminist principles have played a role in the development of modern feminist priorities. In the statement of purpose, there was only one principle which contained ecofeminist ideas. The document recognized the intrinsic connection between women and other marginalized communities, stating that human rights for all are indivisible. However, that is the only place that ecofeminist thought is present. Additionally, the statement of purpose repeatedly advocated for reform or action within existing systems, rather than the transformation of social structures. In the unity principles, there were five principles which contained ecofeminist thoughts. Three of them concerned the transformation of social systems, and two of them had to do with control over and protection of land and resources. Additionally, 15 out of the 18 unity principles highlighted intersectionality, which is another ecofeminist tenet. Intersectionality exists independently from ecofeminism, and its presence is therefore not necessarily indicative of ecofeminist influence. Nevertheless, it's important and relevant to recognize how fundamental intersectionality was to the unity principles. This research provides insight into the development of the contemporary feminist movement. More specifically, it sheds light on one avenue through which the feminist movement has shifted towards a more intersectional, systems based strategy. By using feminist documents as vehicles to follow ecofeminism from its inception through to the present day, we can observe the key principles which affected the movement's priorities. One of the most important contributions of ecofeminism was the reorientation of the feminist movement to look at oppressive systems on a wider scale. Ecofeminism is concerned with global systems of oppression, a concept which was highlighted in the Unity Principles in 2019. Ultimately, the effect of ecofeminism was to push feminists towards the recognition and transformation of oppressive systems, and to re emphasize the importance of intersectionality in feminist thought.